I hear your I love you. There is a moment that almost every heart has dreamed about, a moment so simple, yet so life-changing. It is not marked by applause, wealth, or achievement. It arrives quietly, carried by three ordinary words that hold extraordinary power: I love you. For some, those words become a memory they treasure forever. For others, they remain a longing, something they replay in their imagination while wondering if the day will ever come. But what if I told you that the greatest love story never begins with someone standing in front of you? What if it begins in the unseen world of your thoughts, your beliefs, and your deepest expectations? Every relationship you experience is influenced by the image you carry within yourself. Long before someone speaks words of affection, your heart has already decided whether it believes it is worthy of receiving them. Too many people spend their lives waiting for another person to give them permission to feel valuable. They wait for a text message. They wait for a phone call. They wait for an apology. They wait for someone to finally whisper, I love you, believing those words will heal every wound and erase every doubt. Yet the greatest transformation happens when you stop waiting and start becoming. The moment you begin living as someone who is already loved, appreciated, and cherished, everything around you begins to shift. Today's message is not simply about romance. It is about the incredible power of your inner world. It is about discovering that love is not something you chase. It is something you align with. When your thoughts, emotions, and expectations are filled with certainty instead of fear, you stop asking, will they ever love me? And begin living from the quiet confidence that love naturally belongs in your life. So, if you've ever wondered whether you'll hear those beautiful words, if you've ever questioned whether someone is thinking about you, if you've ever hoped that love would finally find its way into your life, stay with me until the very end. Because today you may discover that the words, I love you, are not the beginning of your story. They are simply the echo of the love you first chose to believe was already yours. The greatest love story you will ever experience does not begin when another person looks into your eyes and says, I love you. It begins much earlier, in a place that no one else can see. It begins in your mind. It begins in your heart. It begins with the story you tell yourself every single day about who you are and what you deserve. So many people spend years believing that love is something they must earn. They think they have to become more attractive, more successful, more interesting, or more perfect before they can finally receive the affection they desire. They wait for someone else to validate their worth, hoping that hearing those three magical words will erase years of insecurity and loneliness. But this is one of the greatest misunderstandings about love. The love that lasts, the love that transforms, and the love that feels effortless is never built on desperation. It is built on identity. The moment you begin to see yourself as someone who is naturally worthy of love, your entire world starts to reorganize around that belief. Your posture changes, your confidence grows, your conversations become lighter, your smile becomes genuine. You stop trying to convince people to choose you because you already know your value does not depend on another person's opinion. This inner shift may seem invisible, but it creates visible results. Every relationship you attract is influenced by the assumptions you carry within yourself. If deep inside you believe you are difficult to love, you will unconsciously notice every delay, every misunderstanding, and every silence as proof of that belief. Even acts of kindness may feel temporary because your mind is searching for evidence that confirms your fears. On the other hand, if you genuinely believe you are deeply loved, appreciated, and respected, you begin to interpret life differently. You expect kindness instead of rejection. You expect honesty instead of deception. You expect commitment instead of abandonment. This expectation quietly shapes your actions, your energy, and the way others respond to you. Think about the people who naturally attract healthy relationships. It is rarely because they are flawless. They have imperfections just like everyone else. What often makes them different is that they carry themselves with a quiet certainty that they are worthy of affection. They do not beg for attention because they believe they already deserve it. They do not panic when someone takes time to reply because their confidence is rooted in something deeper than temporary circumstances. They understand that love is not a prize handed out only to a lucky few. It is a natural expression of who they believe themselves to be. Imagine planting a seed in rich soil. You do not dig it up every morning to check whether it has started growing. You water it. You protect it. You trust the process. In the same way, when you plant the belief that you are loved, you do not constantly question whether it is working. You nourish that belief through your thoughts, your words, and your daily actions. Every time you speak kindly to yourself instead of criticizing yourself, you water the seed. Every time you choose hope instead of fear, you water the seed. Every time you refuse to measure your worth by another person's temporary behavior, you water the seed. Over time, what was once invisible becomes impossible to ignore. Confidence replaces insecurity. Peace replaces anxiety. Love replaces fear. Many people unknowingly sabotage their own happiness because they are living from yesterday's wounds instead of tomorrow's possibilities. They replay old heartbreaks, betrayals, and disappointments until those memories become the foundation of their identity. They begin every new relationship expecting history to repeat itself. But the future does not have to be a copy of the past. Every day presents a new opportunity to choose a different belief about yourself. The opinions of people who misunderstood you are not permanent truths. The rejection you experienced does not define your destiny. The relationship that ended does not determine the relationships that are still waiting to enter your life. You are free to create a new inner story beginning today. Tell yourself that you are enough exactly as you are. Tell yourself that you deserve loyalty, kindness, honesty, and genuine affection. Tell yourself that you are someone whose presence brings joy into the lives of others. These are not empty affirmations meant to ignore reality. They are intentional choices that reshape the lens through which you experience reality. As your inner beliefs evolve, your external experiences often begin to reflect them. You start noticing opportunities that fear once hid from you. You become more open to meaningful conversations. You stop settling for relationships that require you to shrink yourself just to be accepted. Instead, you naturally gravitate toward people who appreciate your authenticity. This is the true beginning of hearing the words, "I love you." Those words become meaningful because they confirm what you already know, rather than attempting to fill an emptiness within you. They become a beautiful reflection of the love you have already cultivated inside yourself. And when love finally arrives, it no longer feels like something fragile that could disappear at any moment. It feels familiar because you have been living in the atmosphere of love long before anyone else spoke it aloud. The most powerful declaration of love is not the one that comes from another person's lips. It is the one that quietly rises from within your own heart, saying, "I am worthy, I am enough, I am deeply lovable." Once that truth becomes your foundation, the words, "I love you," are no longer something you desperately chase. They become something you naturally receive. Every relationship begins long before two people meet face to face. It begins in the silent conversations that take place within the mind. Whether you realize it or not, you are talking to yourself every moment of every day. You imagine future conversations, replay old arguments, anticipate reactions, and create stories about what other people are thinking. These inner dialogues seem harmless because no one else can hear them, yet they quietly shape your emotions, your expectations, and ultimately the experiences you attract into your life. If your inner voice constantly whispers, "I'm not enough, they'll leave me, I'm always overlooked," or "no one truly loves me," those thoughts begin to feel like facts. You start interpreting every delayed message, every misunderstood comment, and every moment of silence as proof that your fears are true. Without realizing it, you are living inside a script that was written by doubt rather than possibility. The world outside often reflects the story that has been playing inside all along. Now imagine changing that script. Imagine waking up each morning with a different conversation taking place within you. Instead of rehearsing rejection, you begin rehearsing acceptance. Instead of expecting disappointment, you begin expecting appreciation. Instead of wondering whether someone cares about you, You carry yourself with the quiet confidence that you are valued, respected, and deeply loved. This is not about pretending that difficulties do not exist. It is about choosing which voice deserves your attention. Every day your mind presents you with a choice. You can continue feeding the thoughts that drain your confidence, or you can begin strengthening the thoughts that build your future. The conversations you repeat most often become the beliefs you carry, and those beliefs influence every decision you make. Think about how often people speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to someone they love. They criticize every mistake, magnify every flaw, and replay every embarrassing moment until it becomes part of their identity. Yet if a close friend came to them feeling discouraged, they would immediately offer compassion, encouragement, and hope. Why should your own heart receive less kindness than you freely give to others? The relationship you have with yourself becomes the foundation of every other relationship in your life. If your inner dialogue is filled with constant criticism, it becomes difficult to receive genuine affection because deep inside you struggle to believe you deserve it. But when your inner conversation becomes one of patience, encouragement, and trust, you naturally become more open to receiving love without fear. There is tremendous power in the words you repeatedly say to yourself. Even when they remain unspoken, they shape your emotional state. Your mind cannot always distinguish between an imagined experience and one that is physically happening in the moment. This is why recalling a painful memory can make your heart race, and imagining a joyful reunion can bring a smile to your face. Your inner conversations create emotional experiences that prepare you for the life you expect to live. If every day you mentally rehearse rejection, your body begins to carry the tension of someone expecting to be rejected. But if you consistently imagine conversations filled with respect, affection, and understanding, you begin to carry the calm confidence of someone who expects love to be present. This does not mean every imagined conversation will instantly become reality. Life remains complex, and other people make their own choices. But changing your inner dialogue changes you. It changes the way you listen. It changes the way you respond to conflict. It changes the energy you bring into every interaction. People often notice confidence before they notice appearance. They respond to authenticity more than perfection. A peaceful heart communicates something that words alone cannot express. When you stop arguing with yourself, you become more present with others. When you stop expecting betrayal, you become capable of recognizing sincerity. When you stop assuming you must earn every ounce of affection, you begin allowing love to flow naturally. Consider the difference between entering a conversation believing someone is about to reject you and entering the same conversation believing you are worthy of respect. Your posture changes, your tone changes, your willingness to listen changes, even your smile becomes more genuine. The conversation itself may unfold differently because you are no longer reacting from fear but responding from confidence. This is why your silent conversations matter so much. They are rehearsals for the life you are creating. Every encouraging thought strengthens your confidence. Every hopeful expectation expands your possibilities. Every moment you choose faith over fear, you rewrite the emotional script that guides your relationships. If you desire to one day hear someone sincerely say, I love you, begin by listening to the conversations already taking place within your own heart. Ask yourself whether your inner voice speaks the language of love or the language of fear. Does it constantly remind you of your failures, or does it remind you of your value? Does it predict loneliness, or does it make room for meaningful connection? The answers to these questions reveal the emotional atmosphere you are living in each day. Transform that atmosphere, and you transform the person you become. Fill your inner world with gratitude instead of complaint, confidence instead of insecurity, hope instead of despair, and kindness instead of self-judgment. Then, when those beautiful words, I love you, are finally spoken by someone who truly means them, they will not sound unfamiliar. They will feel like the natural echo of a truth you have been speaking to your own heart all along. One of the greatest mistakes people make in the search for love is believing that someone else's words have the power to complete them. They spend countless days checking their phone, waiting for a message that never comes, hoping to hear the words, I love you, as though those three words alone could erase years of self-doubt, loneliness, and insecurity. They imagine that the moment those words are finally spoken, every fear will disappear, every wound will heal, and life will suddenly feel whole. But the truth is far more powerful than that. No one else's love can permanently fill a space that you have refused to fill within yourself. If your happiness depends entirely on another person's approval, then your peace will always depend on circumstances you cannot control. Real freedom begins the moment you stop chasing the words and start becoming the feeling. Instead of asking, when will someone love me? Ask yourself, what would my life feel like if I already knew I was deeply loved? That single question has the power to transform everything. It shifts your focus away from lack and toward abundance. It invites you to experience emotionally what you have been waiting to experience physically. When you begin living from the feeling of being loved, instead of constantly searching for proof, your entire perspective changes. You walk differently because you no longer carry the weight of rejection. You speak differently because you no longer feel the need to convince others of your worth. You smile more freely because your joy is no longer dependent on someone else's actions. Confidence replaces desperation, and peace replaces anxiety. This inner transformation is often invisible to the world at first, yet it quietly changes every interaction you have. People are naturally drawn to those who radiate authenticity rather than neediness. They feel comfortable around those who are secure in themselves rather than constantly seeking reassurance. Think about the difference between someone who desperately demands affection and someone who naturally gives and receives love without fear. The first person often feels emotionally exhausted because every conversation becomes a test of whether they are valued. Every delayed reply feels like rejection. Every misunderstanding becomes evidence that they are not enough. The second person, however, approaches relationships from a place of inner fullness. They appreciate love without clinging to it. They enjoy connection without losing themselves. They understand that love grows best where there is freedom rather than fear. Becoming the feeling of love does not mean pretending that life is perfect or ignoring moments of loneliness. It means refusing to let temporary emotions define your permanent identity. It means choosing every day to remember that your value is not determined by another person's ability or inability to express affection. Imagine standing beside a warm fire on a cold evening. You do not question whether the fire has warmth because you can feel it. In the same way, when love becomes an inner experience instead of an external pursuit, you stop questioning your worth every time circumstances change. The warmth already exists within you. External love simply reflects what you have already discovered. Many people unknowingly sabotage meaningful relationships because they enter them carrying an emotional emptiness that only they can heal. They expect one person to become their source of happiness, confidence, security, and purpose. That is an impossible burden for anyone to carry. Healthy love is not about asking someone to complete your life. It is about inviting someone to share in a life that is already filled with meaning. Two whole people create a stronger relationship than two people hoping the other will fix what they have not faced within themselves. This is why emotional wholeness is so important. When you become the feeling of love, you stop settling for relationships built on fear of being alone. You stop accepting disrespect simply because you are afraid of losing someone. You stop chasing people who continually run from genuine connection. Instead, you naturally choose relationships that reflect the respect and kindness you already believe you deserve. You become more patient because you know that what truly belongs in your life does not require endless chasing. You become more peaceful because your identity is no longer tied to another person's unpredictable behavior. Every day gives you an opportunity to practice this way of living. Speak to yourself with compassion. Celebrate your progress instead of obsessing over your imperfections. Be grateful for the love already present in your life, whether it comes from family, friends, meaningful experiences, or simple moments of peace. Let your heart become so familiar with the feeling of love that it no longer depends on hearing the words before believing they are possible. Ironically, this is often when love begins to appear in unexpected ways, not because you forced it into existence, but because you became emotionally available to receive it. Your energy changes, your standards rise, your fears lose their grip. The world begins responding to a version of you that is no longer defined by lack but by quiet confidence. Then one day, perhaps when you least expect it, someone sincerely looks into your eyes and says, "I love you." Those words no longer feel like a rescue mission. They no longer feel like the beginning of your worth. Instead, they feel like a beautiful confirmation of something you have already known deep within your heart. They become the echo of the love you first cultivated inside yourself. And that is the secret so many spend years searching for. Stop chasing the words, become the feeling. When your heart learns to live in the atmosphere of love before hearing it from someone else, you discover that the greatest relationship you will ever build is the one with yourself. And from that place of inner abundance, every genuine expression of love becomes richer, deeper, and more meaningful than you ever imagined. Faith is often misunderstood as simply believing that good things might happen someday. But true faith is much deeper than wishful thinking. It is the quiet confidence that allows you to live as though your heart's desire is already on its way, even when there is no visible evidence to support it. It is choosing peace when circumstances tempt you toward fear. It is choosing hope when the world whispers doubt. It is choosing love when your past experiences tell you to protect your heart at all costs. If you are waiting to hear the words, "I love you," faith asks a powerful question. Can you believe in love before anyone speaks it? Can you trust that what is meant for you is already making its way into your life, even if today feels silent? Most people answer this question with their emotions instead of their convictions. They believe only after they receive proof. They become confident only after someone commits to them. They feel worthy only after another person validates them. But faith works in the opposite direction. It invites you to become inwardly certain before the outward evidence appears. It asks you to plant the seed before expecting the harvest. Just as a gardener does not stand in a field demanding fruit the day after planting a seed, you cannot expect instant results from every hopeful thought or every positive change you make. Growth takes place beneath the surface long before anyone can see it. Roots develop in silence. Strength is built in hidden places. The same is true for your emotional life. Every time you choose trust instead of panic, patience instead of desperation, and confidence instead of insecurity, you are strengthening roots that will eventually support lasting love. Too many people abandon hope because they mistake silence for absence. They assume that because nothing seems to be changing, nothing is happening. Yet some of life's greatest transformations occur quietly. Dawn begins while the world is still asleep. A flower grows underground before it blooms above the soil. A masterpiece exists first in the artist's imagination before it appears on the canvas. In the same way, meaningful relationships often begin with changes inside you that no one else can yet see. Your thinking becomes healthier, your standards become stronger, your confidence becomes steadier. These changes may seem small from day to day, but over time they completely transform the person you become. Faith gives you the courage to continue even when the process feels slow. It reminds you that delays are not always denials. Sometimes life is preparing you while it prepares the opportunities and relationships that are also growing beyond your sight. Imagine building a house. No one celebrates the foundation because it is hidden beneath the ground. Visitors admire the finished walls, the beautiful windows, and the impressive roof. But without the unseen foundation, none of it could stand. Your faith is that foundation. It supports your emotional stability long before anyone notices the visible results. Without it, every disappointment shakes your confidence. Every unanswered message feels like a disaster. Every misunderstanding convinces you to give up. But with faith, you remain steady because your hope is rooted in something deeper than temporary circumstances. Faith also protects you from rushing into relationships that are not healthy simply because you are afraid of being alone. When you trust that genuine love has its proper timing, you become less willing to settle for less than you deserve. You no longer mistake attention for commitment or attraction for lasting connection. Instead, you patiently allow relationships to reveal their true character. This patience is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the confidence that says, I would rather wait for something real than cling to something temporary. Such faith frees you from the exhausting cycle of constantly seeking reassurance. It allows you to enjoy the present instead of obsessing over every possible outcome. There will be moments when doubt tries to return. You may wonder whether love is truly possible for you. You may remember old heartbreaks that left scars on your confidence. During those moments, faith becomes a daily decision rather than a passing emotion. It reminds you that your past does not have the authority to define your future. The people who fail to appreciate you do not determine your worth. The disappointments you experienced are chapters of your story, not the conclusion. Every sunrise proves that darkness is temporary, and every new day offers another opportunity to believe differently than you believed yesterday. Carry yourself with the quiet assurance that your value is already established. Continue becoming the kind of person who gives kindness, receives love with gratitude, and lives with integrity regardless of what anyone else chooses. When your heart is anchored in faith, you no longer chase affection out of fear. You welcome love from a place of peace. Then one day, perhaps in the most ordinary moment, the words you have longed to hear may finally be spoken. Someone may sincerely look at you and say, I love you. Yet those words will not surprise your soul because your heart has already been living in that reality. They will not create your worth because your worth was never waiting for another person's permission. Instead, those words will simply confirm what faith has quietly been teaching you all along. That love belongs to those who believe they are worthy of giving it, receiving it, and living in it long before the world provides visible proof. That is the extraordinary power of faith. It speaks before reality does, and in doing so it prepares you to recognize and embrace love when it finally arrives. There comes a moment in every meaningful love story when words finally catch up with what the heart has already known. After all the waiting, all the growing, all the inner transformation, someone looks into your eyes and says the three words you once dreamed of hearing, I love you. But if your journey has been one of genuine personal growth, those words no longer arrive as a rescue mission. They do not come to fill an emptiness or repair a broken identity. Instead, they arrive as a beautiful confirmation of the truth you have already embraced within yourself. They become an echo of the love you first chose to believe in, long before anyone else spoke it aloud. This is why the most powerful relationships are not built on emotional dependence, but on emotional wholeness. They are created by two people who understand that love is something to be shared, not something to be used as a substitute for self-worth. When you truly believe in your own value, every expression of love becomes richer because it is received with gratitude instead of desperation. You no longer hear I love you as permission to feel worthy. You hear it as a celebration of the person you have already become. Many people spend years chasing relationships without realizing they are actually chasing a feeling. They think they are searching for a particular person, but what they truly desire is the feeling of being accepted, appreciated, safe, and deeply valued. The mistake is believing that another human being is solely responsible for creating those emotions. While healthy relationships certainly bring joy and comfort, lasting peace begins long before another person enters your life. It begins when you choose to become someone who no longer argues with your own worth. It begins when you stop measuring your value by the attention you receive and start measuring it by the character you develop. A person who knows their worth walks differently through life. They do not become arrogant or self-centered. They become calm. They become patient. They become emotionally secure because they understand that their identity is not controlled by changing circumstances or changing opinion. This quiet confidence is incredibly attractive because it creates an atmosphere where love can grow naturally rather than being forced. Think about the strongest trees in a forest. They are not strong because the wind never blows against them. They are strong because their roots reach deep into the ground. Storms come and go, yet the tree remains standing because its stability comes from beneath the surface. In the same way, your emotional life becomes resilient when your confidence is rooted in who you are rather than in what others say about you. Compliments become enjoyable but not necessary. Criticism becomes easier to process because it no longer defines your identity. Love becomes a gift rather than a requirement for survival. When someone sincerely tells you, I love you, those words touch your heart without controlling it. They enrich your life without becoming the foundation of your existence. This is emotional freedom, and it is one of the greatest gifts you can ever give yourself. There will always be people who fail to recognize your value. Some relationships will end. Some expectations will not unfold as planned. Some people may walk away even after making promises they could not keep. But none of those experiences have the authority to erase your worth. They reveal something about circumstances, timing, or compatibility, not about your value as a human being. Once you understand this, you stop taking every disappointment personally. You stop believing that rejection means you are unlovable. Instead, you begin seeing every experience as part of your growth. Every challenge teaches wisdom. Every setback strengthens resilience. Every ending creates space for a new beginning that is more aligned with the person you are becoming. As you continue growing, something remarkable happens. You stop chasing people who constantly make you question your importance. You naturally gravitate toward relationships where respect flows both ways, communication is honest, and affection is expressed without manipulation. Your standards rise because your self-respect rises. You no longer settle for occasional attention when your heart deserves consistent care. You no longer confuse emotional uncertainty with excitement. Instead, you recognize that genuine love brings peace more often than confusion. It creates security rather than constant anxiety. It encourages growth rather than fear. This shift changes everything because you are no longer searching for someone to rescue you. You are looking for someone who can walk beside you as an equal. And then, perhaps when you are least obsessed with making it happen, life surprises you. A conversation becomes deeper than expected. A friendship grows into something meaningful. A connection develops naturally without games or endless uncertainty. One day, the words finally come, I love you. This time they feel different. They do not create your happiness, they multiply it. They do not complete your identity, they complement it. They do not silence your fears, because your fears have already lost much of their power through the work you have done within yourself. Instead, those words become a beautiful reflection of the love, confidence, patience, and faith you have been cultivating all along. So let this be the lesson you carry with you long after today. Never underestimate the power of becoming the person you hope to meet. Never believe that your future depends solely on someone else's choices. Your greatest responsibility is to guard your heart, strengthen your character, and live each day with the quiet certainty that you are already worthy of genuine love. When you do, you no longer spend your life desperately waiting to hear the words, I love you. You live in such a way that those words become the natural response to the light, kindness, confidence, and authenticity you bring into the world. And when they are finally spoken by someone who truly means them, they will not mark the beginning of your love story. They will simply confirm the beautiful truth you have believed from the very beginning, that you were always worthy of love, and the greatest I love you would ever hear first began in the silent confidence of your own heart.